One of the things that stops so many people from growing successful, profitable businesses, especially in the health and fitness space, which is where I come from, is not being able to manage their energy, their mindset, and their actions. And here's what I mean. Most struggling coaches, most struggling business owners, heck, most struggling people, they're so focused on the strategies and the tactics, which, don't get me wrong, like, we gotta have strategies and tactics. We gotta have something to do in order to get results. But when that becomes the focus point, it causes a lot of times for people to hop from strategy to strategy to tactic to tactic. And they're constantly focused on like doing, on like trying to do more, trying to find the one thing that's going to help them. And this is common in business, as if you're watching this and you are a coach or you're a business owner, you could probably shake your head and be like, yeah, I get that. You'll see this in weight loss, right? Somebody goes from diet to diet or workout plan to workout plan, or they hire trainer to trainer, and they're trying to figure out what's that secret, what's that magic sauce that's going to help me be able to get to my goals. And the truth of the matter is, it actually comes down to deeper than that. It goes into your, like, what beliefs do you have? Like, how are you thinking? Like, are you thinking like an employee? Are you thinking like a 4 or 5 figure business owner? Or are you thinking, and do you have the beliefs of a 6-figure or 7-figure coach or 8-figure, whatever it is that your goals are? You see this in weight loss, right? Like, if somebody thinks and believes and has the identity, is the word I was looking for, of an overweight person, and then they're trying to go to the gym, they're trying to eat healthy, hence the word try, they a lot of times won't actually sustain results because the way they think and believe is off. And Tony Robbins says this best. He has a quote that says 80% of success comes down to psychology, 20% comes down to strategy. Now, in my own life, I've found that it's like 90% comes down to mindset, psychology, and your physiology, and 10% comes down to the strategies and skills. Because the strategy is actually the easy part, and I'm going to prove it to you. Not a couple years ago now. This is back in 2017. I was negative 45K in debt. Of course, because I was in debt. I was negative 45K. At the time, I'd taken out a lot of loans and credit and things like that to try to keep my gym afloat. We had made a move, about $80,000 between myself and an investor, to franchise our gym. And so that was the initial cost to franchise the gym. We were really successful at the time in our single location. We had 300 members. We were rocking and rolling. It was amazing. So we're like, let's take this concept and bring it out to more people. And we made a bad move. And so gym started to go downhill. We were out there. I was like Ray Kroc selling McDonald's, but I was out there trying to sell my gym. We were marketing it, and it ended up being a hot mess and turned into a big failure. And I remember at that time, like, just trying to do more. I was like trying to run more ads despite going into further debt, and I was at a loss. And to make matters worse, I just had a newborn, my daughter Ava, who's now 7. And it was a really rough time. And I remember emotionally feeling so like shame and guilt and just fear, stress, and anxiety constantly. And that started to really come up into my headspace. And it was just like a perpetuating cycle where I just kept going. It was like a downward spiral. And no matter what I did, I couldn't seem to really get out of debt. Like, I would make some money, but it was just really, really rough, and I couldn't really get out of this hole that I had dug. And then I remember, fast forward a couple of years, I launched an online coaching business, and we started to do 10K, 20K cash collected. I was out of debt. Things were good. I was making really good money at the time. But I remember still feeling really stressed. And I was out there posting content. I was DMing a bunch of people. I was running ads. I was doing all of this stuff. And I was just like, why am I still feeling stressed? And I kept making money, losing money, making money, losing money, and just feeling stressed despite what I was doing. And I was hopping from strategy to strategy, tactic to tactic, really trying to figure out the thing that I could do that was going to propel me up to 50, 60, 70, 80, 90K months. And the truth of the matter is, it didn't work. I would make the money, I would lose the money, and I lived in this constant state of stress, anxiety, fear, and a bit of shame. And during that time, like I remember just I wanted to be respected and I wanted to be liked, and a lot of these things that were kind of like latched onto me. And I remember like lying. Like I would lie about revenue numbers that I was making. I would lie, and this stems from a whole nother story we don't want to go into today, but from childhood, from being beat up in a lot of gang violence in Miami, and being stabbed and thrown off bridges. Like I had to lie to like essentially keep myself alive. And so I remember bringing that into my adulthood. I wanted to be respected. I wanted to be liked. And I lied. I lied a lot. And I felt a lot of shame around lying. You know, I'd lie about like things that I was doing in peer groups that I was in. And I remember like that constant state of like feeling of like shame and guilt. And I remember I was working with a mentor, and I was like, dude, you know, I was doing about 20K months, and I was like, why do I still feel so stressed, and I just feel guilty, and I feel anxious all the time, and I feel like I'm just gonna lose everything. And that's when he really introduced me to the whole concept of like regulating your nervous system, taking care of your physiology, your biology. And I started to do the work. I started to go inwards and do the work. And this is what I'm going to encourage a lot of you to do, especially like if you're feeling stressed all the time, if your business isn't growing the way that you want it to grow, despite you actually taking actions, it's starting to look inwards. And so at the time, like that's when I discovered like, man, I got to stop lying. Like I got to stop fibbing. And I see a lot of, especially people in the health and fitness space, I see them do this a lot. Most people, and I'm saying not all, maybe I'm speaking for me and for some people I know, but a lot of people that kind of get into fitness, they do it because usually they didn't feel like enough growing up, or maybe there was violence, or there's something. So like you get fit to like really propel yourself forward and to like feel confident. So I see this a lot. I see a lot of people lying about their businesses and stuff like that. And I remember a few years back, I just decided like enough was enough, and I was just gonna just like. I wrote down a standard, and this kind of gets into some things that you could start doing. I wrote down a standard that day, and I said, I am going to be a man of my word. I am going to be truthful. And it was a standard that I put, and that immediately like lifted a weight off of me. And so ever since that day, like I've decided that I'm going to speak the truth. Always. Integrity first. If people don't like me for my truth, that's okay. And so I'm going to encourage you to look at like, what are some of these things that you're holding on to right now? What are some of these behaviors that you have that aren't serving you anymore? Another thing was I deleted Facebook and Instagram off of my phone. I felt like I was going and checking it too much. I stopped drinking alcohol. Every now and then I'll have like a craft beer or something because I freaking love a good craft beer, but I stopped drinking alcohol. I stopped doing a lot of things that were like not good behaviors, that weren't serving my higher purpose, that weren't actually leading to my mission. And so I want you to think right now, like, what are some of those beliefs that you have? Maybe you have beliefs that like growing business is hard, making money is hard, booking calls is hard. What beliefs that you have that are disempowering, that are not helping propel you towards growing the business that you want to grow? What are some of these habitual thought patterns that you're thinking throughout the day? Really start to pay attention to these things. How are you feeling? What's that core emotion that is driving your work, that is fueling your work? In fact, there's a one of the biggest life coaches in the world. Her name is Brooke Castillo, and she has a quote that says, the core emotion that's fueling your work. I can't remember the exact quote as I'm trying to say it. Essentially, burnout comes from having a core emotion fueling your work that's less than stellar. And so if the core emotion fueling your work is stress or anxiety or fear or shame or guilt, it's going to be really hard to grow, versus like if that core emotion is courage or acceptance or willingness or something that's above the middle line. So if you look up the not Maslow hierarchy of needs, it's the David R. Hawkins levels of consciousness. I have it over here on my wall. You'll be able to kind of see what I'm talking about here. And so what's that core emotion that's fueling your work? Certain things that I do for both mindset, for my beliefs, and for my physiology, regulating my nervous system, are going to be things like meditation. Just literally sitting and like focusing on one single point, your breath, anything, for like at least 15 minutes. Another thing that I do is breath work. Pretty much every day I do 5 to 20 minutes of breath work. And that for me has been a massive game changer in helping. I get clear in my vision, knowing the direction that I'm going. I get clear on my goals. I get clear on my values. So getting clear on like what values do you want to embody? What are the standards that you're going to uphold? So I have certain standards every single day. A standard is meditation. A standard is breath work. A standard is my content cadence. My standard is my outreach to connect with strategic partners and to connect with potential clients. There's certain standards that once you uphold, and then so there's like actual actionable standards, and then you have your value-based standards. Like, I am going to always be truthful. I am going to be bold and courageous. I am like things that like I'm going to be patient. I am going to be in control of my thoughts and emotions. I am going to be whatever things that you want to embody. And then from there, it's just following suit and staying the course with your standards, both your value-based standards and your action-based standards. And so what I found to be true is if you want to grow a successful business that's sustainable for the long term and have an enjoyable life and be able to help a lot of people, make a lot of money, impact a lot of lives, and do it in a sustainable way, it's not about the strategies and tactics. That's a very small piece of it. Like, this is what I teach heavily inside the In-Demand Coach program. It's like what strategies and tactics that I've used to be able to grow a very successful coaching business. The strategies are pretty straightforward. It's the inner work that most people don't focus on, or they spend very little bit amount of time on it. They're not really focused on mastering their energy, on mastering their mindset, on mastering their behaviors and their actions, their habits, the things that they repeatedly do. And as the great Aristotle said, excellence, I can never remember any quotes. As I'm about to say them, I'm like, what? Excellence, what is the quote by Aristotle? We'll throw it up here. But it's like excellence is not, it's like we are what we repeatedly do. We're going to leave it at that. You hopefully get it. Hopefully I made my point. And so that's what I'm going to give to you right now. Think about in some action steps that you could take. I want you to start to like become aware of some of the beliefs that you have in terms of growing your business, whether it's around making money, around growing the business, around booking calls, around getting clients. I want you to start thinking about what your beliefs are. And again, just be you. Like, think about what things are you doing or are you thinking? What are those habitual thought patterns? Just getting aware of them and starting to write them down. Starting to become aware of what that core emotion is that's fueling your work. Holistically, your whole business, and also individually. So what's that core emotion fueling your content creation? What's that core emotion fueling you booking calls? What's that when you're in the DMs? What's your core emotion around serving clients? What's your core emotion around managing your team if you have a team? Start to really think about that holistically and then individually based on each task. And then your only job so if you're below what I would call like the neutral line, which the neutral line I believe is courage. So courage, and then it's neutrality, then willingness, then acceptance, then reason. So if you're below the courage line, your only job is to get yourself into a place where your dominant state, your dominant emotion is courage. That's it. So become aware of that, and then start to look at what behaviors that you have that aren't serving you. Do you have employee type behaviors? Like when it's Friday, are you like, woo, Friday, I'm taking off? That's not how successful entrepreneurs think, my friend. Do you have habits that aren't serving you? Whether it's watching porn, whether it's like smoking weed every day, whether it's drinking alcohol a lot, whether it's scrolling social media all the time, whether it's eating bad food. What habits aren't serving your higher good, that aren't going to help you be in alignment with your values, with your vision, with your mission that you're on? And your job is to just make those things become aligned. And when you can do that, and when the words that come out of your mouth, the things that you think, the feelings that you have, and then the behaviors and actions and habits that you embody, when you could do that, then you start to like focus on the strategies and tactics, which, by the way, when you start to master your mindset and you start to master your energy, it's way easier to focus. It's like there's so many tabs that are closed off in your head that it's so much easier to focus. Then you start to do the strategies and tactics, like post your content, do the stuff, right? All of a sudden it starts to work way better. And it's not magic, it's science. And so I would love to know if this episode was helpful for you. It's a bit different than what I normally do. So if this was helpful, click subscribe so you can get more episodes like this. And leave a comment. Let me know what your big takeaway was from today. I would love to know. As always, remember your message matters now more than it ever has before. Don't be afraid to speak it. Be seen, be heard, and be impactful.